Are live. So there's a chance that my wife and I and our kids might come down to Austin for spring break this year.
Next week or when's y'all spring break?
Our spring, I think we end on Easter, so it's the
Oh, it's
starts
in
on
April. Okay.
April 8th.
Yeah, yeah.
We have some friends who live down there, and my son, crazy, is junior in high school, so he's considering his schools.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, he's about 95% sure of where he wants to go, which is
Where's that?
Wisconsin.
Oh, Wisconsin. Okay.
That's where I went to school.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Um, I won him over on Wisconsin. Now he grew up in Chicago and I grew up in Wisconsin. I am a Packers fan. He is a devout Bears fan.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So it's during football season. Saturdays we're like high fiving each other, and on Sundays we are definitely competitors.
Yeah.
Um,
That sounds fun.
it is. It is. Are you a football fan?
Mm, I would say casually, more of a college football fan probably than professional. In Austin, we don't have a pro professional team. Um, so it's you're either Dallas or Houston Texans. I'm from Houston, so loosely watch them, but they haven't been great, so there's not a whole lot to cheer for there.
How did you how'd you end up in Austin? Did you go to UT?
My Actually, I went to A&M, so it's kind of the last
Oh
place
wow.
most Aggies want to end up. But no, had family here, and after we had our daughter, it was kind of the best place to be to have a broader support network
Yeah, no, that
because really family.
that makes all the difference in the world. Our
Yeah.
families live. Well, my wife's family lives here in Chicago. My family's just in Wisconsin. So, yeah, it's very nice to, especially when the kids are small, to lean on that network for sure.
Yeah.
Now all we have to worry about is really finding a place for our dog to go.
What do you mean?
Like if we leave town,
Oh,
getting
oh,
something to
yeah.
watch the dog, which we have some neighbors to do that. Is it warming up down there in Austin now?
No, we just got a huge cold front coming in. So it's freezing today.
Yeah, we're going to be down to like 10 degrees tonight, I saw. But then
Where are you guys at?
we're in Chicago.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. Okay.
Actually, right downtown Chicago. I lean back and I look out. I can see Lake Michigan. Um, we have an amazing office space that, I mean, downtown Chicago is still pretty much a ghost town.
Yeah. I was talking to someone from Chicago yesterday saying crime was kind of becoming a little bit of a problem too. I mean, Chicago is a major metropolitan; it's going to have problems, but that had become a little bit more into the non-traditional high crime areas.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. You just get the creep of when there's a vacuum of people not around. Crime can kind of creep in. The L, our in city train here, has quite a bit of homeless people on it, and which is all that nice to be riding along with that.
Yeah.
I just came. I flew into O'Hare, the major airport, on Tuesday morning, and some of these homeless will just ride the train to one end and then get off and jump on the next train heading back to the other end, which
Hmm.
makes sense because it's warm on there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Well, when it's freezing fucking cold outside.
exactly,
Yeah, I get it.
exactly. Um, we're in. Are you guys in downtown Austin?
We're about 10 minutes north of downtown, so
I mean,
still central-ish, but yeah.
I know downtown. I visited there, and actually, I went to Reggae Fest in that big
Hmm.
park along the river.
Okay, I
That
don't
was
know what
super
that
fun.
is, but
I know there's some massive outdoor park, and there's a big outdoor music fest.
uh-huh.
Uh,
Reggae Fest, nice.
yeah, was fun. And then we went up to that. What's the area where all the food trucks sit? Like little ring.
There's not like one central area. There's a handful of parks, food truck parks though. Um,
Yeah, that was
in South Austin.
It never ceases to amaze me how good the food is coming out of the side of some beat up old, delivery truck looking thing, right?
I know, right? And that's the entry right now. It sounds like for restaurants is open up a really good food truck, then move to brick and mortar.
Yeah, it's almost like the startup ecosystem of a restaurant. Is you get your brand going on the food truck, and then successfully roll that into a restaurant. We actually have right next to our house a bar restaurant that got started as a food truck.
Yeah.
And they still use that food truck. All right, it is noon. Let's see, we are live, I believe. I like to monitor what's going on LinkedIn as well. Yeah, there we are, right there. Perfect. So let's kick this off. Welcome, everybody. It is Friday, March 11th. I cannot believe it's March 11th already. It's funny. I was talking about, we're just getting going on Q1. And I mean, Q1's almost in the books. It's crazy. We have with us today Chris Doyle, who is the president and CEO of Build, Bill. Hello, Chris.
Hey, what's up, Mike?
We
nice
are
to be on, chatting.
Yeah, we're happy to have you on. I think the conversation is extremely timely, given the current conditions of the market and interest rates in particular, which we're going to touch on. But why don't you tell us a little bit about Build? And you spell the company's name wrong. I see you either have one too many L's or you're missing an E. I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah. No, the origin of our name is super interesting because we started as a different name, and I'm not going to mention it. But we ran into copyright issues about a month in, which we detected, not the other company, but it was a very, very large financial institution. And so we kind of had to scramble for names, and we had a list. In fact, just the other week, I found the list on SurveyMonkey that me and my co-founder Jesse were putting together. And it's so funny when you go back in time and look at some of the things you were working on and how horrible some of the ideas were. But one of my favorite was plow, which everyone hated. But I liked it because it just symbolized like plowing your way through, right? Getting the job done.
Of course.
And no one else took that connotation as the first reaction. So we ended up having to switch it. But the origin of Build was really from the co-founder, Jesse. And it's a play on build and then build, because what we do is we provide terms for commercial construction material. And we get two reactions when we talk about our company for the first time. The first is, what a cool name. And the second is, why has no one done this before? I don't think we get the same reaction if we ended up going with plow.
No, probably not. So yeah, why has no one done this before? I mean, I can tell you, I know why people haven't done it before, because it's hard.
Yeah. My standard answer now is just, I don't know. I kind of struggle to just give folks a response. But, I don't really know. But it's access to capital, and contractors, specifically subcontractors, have a few common attributes. One is generally their low cash balance. And their low cash balance because they do the work, they pay for the work, material and labor, and then they wait for that payment. And they're juggling whether it's 2 or 3 projects, 20 or 30 or more. It doesn't really matter, just adding zeros to it. It's still the same fundamental issue that you're deploying a lot of resources and expenses and cash, but you don't have that incoming. So naturally, low cash balance, as soon as the money comes in, it's going out to pay something.
Right. It's,
Um,
being a contractor is an interesting business because it's so asset light from
mhm.
like hard asset. You don't generally need that much money tied up in your equipment, but you don't get paid till the end of the job. So, the barrier to entry, you may have the skill set to be a contractor. In fact, you might have the skill set and the whole team to be a great general or a great contractor, subcontractor, and you don't have that access to capital. It's going to be a big hindrance to you getting going.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to be able to grow. I mean, it really is simple math. When you have to, if you get $100 project, just keep it simple here, you're deploying generally 60 to $70, and then you're waiting for that $100 for call it 2 months on the conservative side. And so that means you have to do two of those. So you're 120 out on day one, and you're getting your first dollar in on that third month. It doesn't work. And that's at steady state, not to mention if you're taking on your two projects, right? So then all of a sudden you've just doubled your problem. And, it's something that I mean, that's what we're here for, right? That's our pain point that we're solving. But the more we educate customers and just kind of get involved in the industry, the more I feel like it's just a problem that not enough light is shed on. It's like, how the hell is this supposed to work, right? And it's not like we're talking about large global distributors. Crimea River, you're $1 billion company, like you have access, right? You can figure it out. But these are 1 to 50 person companies that are literally uh, like the ones the ones that are their hands are creating the project, right? Their hands are building the bridge, the building, whatever it may be. Like, they have to be well funded, they have to be well supported, or guess what it's going to result in, right? Poor quality work, moving too fast. Distressed businesses means distressed work, right? And that's a big fucking problem. I don't know if
Yeah.
I'm allowed to say that here.
Well, let's high level this up. I'm a subcontractor. I work with build. How does it work for me?
Yeah, so we offer two products. The first is what we call material financing. It's 120-day terms on your material purchases. So if you need to buy, call it $100,000 worth of lumber, steel, plumbing fixtures, lighting, whatever it may be, we do everything. And we see some interesting stuff for construction junkies, to get into. But we purchase that material from your originating supplier, and then resell to the contractor at 120-day terms. And we charge $50 per uh, $10,000 of material per week. So that's our revenue, right? And what it does is it gives contractors the flexibility, even if they already have 30-day terms with their supplier, which is fairly typical. The problem is they don't get paid in 30 days. If they did, we wouldn't exist. And so they normally are getting paid 60, 90. It's very unpredictable, right, when they actually get paid. But now they have the flexibility. They're paid within 30 days, they pay us back, no problem. But if they are having to wait for that payment, then they have that flexibility of paying us once they're paid.
Okay, so where does the material go? Like, where does it get delivered to? How do you keep control of it?
Yeah, so that exchange still lives with the contractor and originating supplier. So we don't necessarily get in the middle of that component. So it's not like it's being shipped from Wisconsin warehouse to Austin and then to the job site in New York. It's very similar to when you do a bulk purchase from, let's say, Owens Corning, where you have basically a full trailer worth of material that's going from the distribution site to the project, right? It's not hitting your local supplier, even though you purchase it through your local supplier. We technically take title of the property, but we don't physically touch the asset or the
Okay, so
material.
we'll bring it in terms of materials exchange. A big builder comes on the platform and wants to buy, you know, 5 trucks of the OSB flooring.
Yeah.
And, this in today's world, you're looking at, geez, $30,000, $40,000 a truck. All of a sudden, they've got 200 grand.
Yeah.
Now, the way our platform works, we need to get paid right away. It's, kind of cash up front. So
Yep.
they work with Build in this, correct? And Build can make the payment for them.
That's right. We facilitate direct payment to the supplier up front. And the other benefit there is you generally, and I'm kind of speaking with a broad brush, but suppliers that offer 30-day terms, if you're paying up front, they normally will give you 2 to 3% cash discount. So that's an added benefit that would offset what would be our costs.
Of course.
But we facilitate payment up front. We generally are doing this same day. So a customer says, I need this $200,000 worth of material. They provide the quote from the supplier. And then we facilitate that payment same day to the supplier. Then they release funds. And while this is so important for us, I mean, we started the conversation, well, why isn't anyone doing it? Some folks may have offered something similar, but what we recognize is a lot of the service component, like the same day, right? Contractors, unfortunately, are a bit reactive, and they're reactive because they're getting calls. At any given time, you probably have 30 to 40 projects under contract, and maybe managing 10. And I know this certainly depends on the size of the sub, but that's fairly normal. And so, depending on the progress of these 30 to 40 projects, like let's say you're a flooring contractor, they may call you 2 weeks out and say, hey, we're ready for you, right? It's like, okay, got that. And I've got this other one, I've got to move this crew over here. So you're kind of doing this, right, all the time. So I don't think, when I say reactionary, I don't think it's any fault of the contractor. It's just the business that they're in. And so, I started this by saying, like, the same day delivery component of, hey, you need this, like, we're going to do this as if it's like your urgency is now passed to us, right? We're going to go over great, jump through hoops, whatever we need to do to figure out how to get that invoice paid that day, so you can get that material delivered, so you can install the material on time, on budget, safely. And that's really what subcontractors care about, because that's what general contractors care about, and that's their core customers, the general contractor.
Well, and the supplier, what do we care about? We want to get paid as quickly as possible. If I have a choice, I have material for one lot of material that could go to 3 different jobs. Which one am I going to be most compelled to send it to? I'm going to send it to the person that I'm going to get my money back as quick as possible.
That's right. And I think if you just look one layer above that, it's, as a supplier, you want to make sure that your customer is not in distress, right? And they're not in distress if they're getting their material on time, right? And they're able to install and perform for the GC. If they're performing for the GC, they're going to get paid. Maybe not on time. I don't even know what on time means right now in construction, quite frankly. But they're going to get paid, and then they can turn around and pay their suppliers. But if you don't have the infrastructure, like in your business, right? If you don't have the infrastructure to support the core nature of what a contractor has to deal with on a daily basis, it's going to be difficult for you to be successful. And so when you talk about like outside finance companies, lenders, payment company, technology providers, if they don't really know the customer and the day in the life, they're just not going to be successful. So I know I keep going back to, why has no one else done it? It's like, it's really bridging that gap between, access to capital and construction. And, I have a 20-year background in construction, so I'm able to kind of bridge that. And we built a team here that can do the same.
Look, money's a commodity. Everyone's money's green here in the United States, and you can get money generally from anyone. But what does that money come with? If it comes with a team that's going to support you and that understands your business and can work with you. So, yeah, that's great. Now, what about the second product?
Yeah. So, after, we've only been in business about 3 years, and we kind of grew fairly rapidly. And we work directly with the subcontractors, so that's how we market, is directly to them. And the feedback we had gotten is, we love this product. However, it's really only solving like a third of our needs. You've got a $100,000 a month pay application, let's say, what they're billing out for a project, and 30,000 of that is material. So yes, that helps, but we also have to pay for labor, G&A expenses, right? Potential equipment, and they're saying, do you have a solution for that? And so we kind of went in our R&D think tank and had tried a few different products, just very onesie twosie, to try to find the most optimal um, way to handle that in combination with material financing. And so now what our go to market is a pay application advance. And what that does, allows a contractor, once they submit their pay application, to draw down on that. And so in this case, instead of sending us an invoice, they send a pay application that they've submitted to the GC and approved by the GC, and we advance against that.
Okay. And that once again helps them operate their business.
Yeah.
So if you think about it as a general, what you want your subcontractor to really be worried about is getting the job done, not
That's
getting
right.
paid, not paying
That's right.
contract or
Mhm.
suppliers. All right. So tell us some success stories. Like what has your product been able to do for someone who they didn't have access to it?
Yeah. I think that the first is um, just stress. I mean, our customers are stressed out all the time. How am I going to get this done? I have to keep this crew on board, even though I don't have a project. Now all of a sudden I need two crews. Um, we already talked about kind of the dysfunctional cash flow issue, along with their own ambitions to grow their business. And having a product that can relieve the pain points on cash flow reduces a significant amount of stress for them to operate their business the right way, right? And I think from a broader kind of success story, it's, hey, like I have this issue. I'm constantly juggling suppliers. I don't have a solution, and like I don't understand why. And after using us, they have a much more streamlined approach to how they procure material. We do have a combination of folks that either use us on every project or sometimes just on really large projects. Um, but they are able to negotiate more cleanly with the supplier, because it's like you're negotiating on price, you're choosing based on product support, oftentimes availability, right, with your supplier. And then all of a sudden you throw in terms, right? Like, when do I have to pay this off? That's kind of an odd thing for a supplier as a kind of like a product benefit, right? Like how long your terms are. And so when you eliminate that, it really does clean up the negotiation of like, what kind of material do I need? Okay, like don't worry about terms. Don't worry about pay. I'm just going to pay you up front, right? Let's get you the best deal. So and it also, quite frankly, allows you to choose suppliers that you may want to work with, but they don't offer terms. So, or they don't offer as good of terms. Um, and it's so funny because we'll get referrals from suppliers, and it's not that uncommon for the first purchase that contractor make is actually with another supplier. And we're like, well, wait a second, this person referred you. And they say, well, we don't really like working with them. We use them because they give us 60-day terms, but they have higher pricing. The product's never available, or I get incomplete shipments. I got to wait 3 days every time I get a shipment. And I don't really like their support team, but I have, this other group I really love working with. So that's another big success story. The last is just growth. Like, it's really hard to grow in construction. You have enough issues to deal with, especially with the labor market right now. You have a lot of uncertainty in pricing um, for material, which Mike, I know you all know all too well. Um, but you know, having flexibility in when you pay for that material allows for contractors to actually grow at a sustainable pace without putting their business at risk. Because that's really what you're doing when you're growing quickly. call it 30-40% annual growth, which is not that much, and we have customers that grow much faster than that. But that's a fairly good growth rate, and when you're growing that quickly, you are putting your business in distress because
Absolutely.
of access to capital.
Well, and as you become a better contractor, you want to look for a bigger job, bigger capital, right? It all works together. So let's forward think here for a little bit, and let's talk about integrations, because there's advancements in technology all around the construction ecosystem.
Hmm.
Um, Mostly, you see a lot of great gains in project management type software. Your Procores, Autodesks. Um, how's the integration work, and has that been a boon for these for your users?
Yeah. I mean, we are at this stage pretty much um, talking to every single technology provider out there. We have built-in apps with some, stuff like Procore, um, but to us, that's the future, right? Is offering our product at what we call like time of need, like when they need to plan for the project, plan the procurement, right? And a lot of times that's even at estimating, but also at contract award, probably mostly at contract award. Um, and I would say the subcontractor layer is still like early on in that adoption curve. So what are they using is still very, very broad, right? There's not like one or two platforms out there that most people are using. And so our perspective is really work with all of them. Where it gets complicated, like Mike, if we look at your business, is like SKU management, right? And if we work with so many trades, SKU management on these integrations can get super, super complicated. It's already really complicated per supplier for them to manage, but when you open that on the 30 to 40 trades per project, it gets even more complicated. So that's a challenge we're trying to work in like a kind of a more, not that we would create a universal SKU guide, but it's certainly an obstacle for us to get like super granular in the material purchase
Yeah,
side and integration.
there is no doubt the industry, if they could standardize and everyone speak the same language, that would definitely help, a great deal. Um, what as far as money costs go, everyone, inflation is here, at
Mhm.
least currently. Interest rates rising. Do you see any hiccups coming down the road?
Well, we've all been dealing with the rise in material prices for what, a year and a half now. And it's been a super roller coaster. And for folks that have been in the industry for a while, this is nothing new. What I think is odd is like just the availability. Like you get into issues where you have a hurricane and all of a sudden you can't access OSB, but like a pure play like global shortage of, like, if I take solar, what we're involved in, like silicon cells, like you just can't get panels anywhere. That's kind of thrown us for a loop, and it's hard to understand the procurement behaviors and how it affects it. Because on one hand, everyone's got to get the job done, right? I mean, the project has to be completed. You've got rising prices, which you're going to deal with that somehow between the GC and the sub. But and then this availability issue. It's like even if the price is up, you can't even access it. So what does that? Do you just like hoard material? Well, that's kind of how do you do that? And then especially with the prices going up and down. So it's a um, fairly perplexing dilemma it puts contractors in, and how to manage it. We don't necessarily have it figured out or have a bona fide strategy, but it does seem like that's calming down a bit. From an interest rate standpoint, you're going to see that, in our business, it doesn't really affect it. But what you're going to see there is just like, I mean, all this stuff, leading indicator will start in residential as interest rates rise. It will affect residential building, and that will normally what 2 to 3 year lag on commercial construction. That will be there. Um, but we're in still a very short term environment. How that plays out, like, is it a rapid increase, throughout the year? Is it super gradual, in which case, it's eased a bit and it doesn't affect the broader economy? Because the benefit we have is construction is so large, 1.5 trillion, whatever the number is right now, that, the a 3 to 4% shift either way isn't going to be terribly destructive to the industry. But you, as a business owner, you need to be super mindful of what's going on. And if you have to hover your foot over the brake a bit, right? That doesn't mean slam the brakes or make a drastic right turn, but keep that foot hovered over the brake. I think we're certainly in that area, and it honestly, it makes it, as a business owner and a sub, everyone's been faced with this dilemma. Hey, I've got $100,000 project. Will you take it for 90? Right. And here it is. Just sign right here. It's yours. Like, you might pass, right? You might say, I'll take the next one. And what you're giving up is growth for the year, and you may even slow down. But, I always say, like, when COVID first hit, my advice was, don't do anything that would sink the ship ever. And the most important thing is that your business survives. Even the really, really hard decisions, like letting someone go, letting a crew go, right? The most important thing is the business survives, so that way you can hire that crew back, right? When times are better.
Absolutely. Yep.
These are all super complicated. I wish I had like this is my advice. Because what I see is material price is easing a bit. But as these other things come in, it's like, kind of keep that foot over the brake and make sure you're not making super aggressive moves that aren't well calculated.
Never a dull moment. So we have a question. So, for example, a subcontractor that's framing multiple houses could buy straight truckloads of studs from Materials Exchange, and you could finance that.
That's right. So we're project based. So I think that's I don't know if that's multiple homes or
I think multifamily probably.
Yeah, multifamily. Yeah. So we don't do single family residential, but we are project based. So let's say it's a multifamily apartment complex, and you need to purchase a lumber package. That's exactly how it would work. Is depending on the stage at which you're buying the lumber pack. So if it's like 1, 2, 3, whatever, you say, okay, 1. Send that invoice. We pay material exchange up front, and then the sub would pay us over 120 days.
Excellent.
I rather pay when paid or 120 days.
Got it. Now, let's say someone gets set up with Build. They're not required to use them, but you could use it kind of at a moment's notice, correct? So,
Yeah.
like, I'm sitting here going, all right, I've got $100,000 on my credit line, but I want to get this next job coming up. And if I get that job, I'm going to want to secure some of the materials. So to keep some powder dry, I'm just going to use Build for this.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And, there's a benefit just to being approved and having the available line. As you graduate as a sub, your first, let's say you've been in business 3 or 4 years, likely at that stage you have a corporate credit card. You are likely set up to work with 3 to 4 suppliers minimum. You likely have your favorite, both in terms, in what they'll provide, and also just product pricing and support. You more than likely do not have a line of credit with your bank, just because you don't have enough business and tenure in your business. And you don't have that much purchase power with the suppliers you're working with, right? At 3 to 4 years in business. And so we have a kind of like, it's like a 5-step, from graduation to that 100 million plus contractor that has banks kind of beating down their door, trying to give them lines of credit to where you start over here. And we very much help with that, because we're able, and we report to the bureaus, right? And it's the same bureaus that banks will check after the fact. Most suppliers don't report to bureaus, right? Credit bureaus, and
Okay.
because they're trade, it's trade credit, whereas we do. And so you're building that positive credit, having an open line. Even it shows um, other lenders are willing to provide credit, and that's a super positive, right? So if we pull credit on a business and we see literally they have no credit, they've never bought something on credit as a business, obviously we're super cautious. However, if we see they have 3 or 4 lines of credit, using them responsibly, maybe not using them at all, that's a very positive sign.
Sure.
And so as you take those steps as a business, to have more and more flexibility in your cash flow, we can very much help in that way. So everyone's always heard, right, when you turn 18, you get a credit score, right? And everyone says go buy like a washer dryer or get a credit card and use it once. Like, you have to build credit so such that when you want to buy a house one day, you have positive credit, right? So if you're a sub and you want to be $50 million sub, 100 million, you 100%, you will not get there without a line of credit from a bank. Period. End of story. And so think about that years in advance of what you can do, right? And so one is like a corporate card. Well, guess what? A corporate card is going to give you like a $10,000, maybe like 50,000 at the very high end. That's nothing. I mean, you're buying hundreds of $1,000s a month
Right.
in material. Like, that's not going to do it, but still get it, right? And then build a relationship, right, with that card. I know it sounds odd. Consumer, you don't build a relationship with your card, but when you're spending several $100,000 a month on a credit card, you do form that relationship. Form relationships with entities that do report to the bureaus, and and that way you're well equipped. We go to get the mortgage, we'll call it, as a business. They say, oh wow, you have excellent credit, let's get this thing done.
Perfect. All right. Well, we're at the half an hour mark.
Mhm.
We generally wrap up with one last question: so what does Chris see happening in the market and the industry that other people don't see? Like what's kind of rolling around in your head that you see coming down the pipe?
Yeah, I mean, I really think that subcontractors are becoming a lot more responsible in their growth. And, there's all these clouds out there, material price right now, and they've been dealing with this for a year and a half. Um, everything that's happening kind of in the global economy and politics and all this, that they do have their foot over the pedal, which I think is super, sorry, over the brake, not the pedal. Um, and I think they're super cautious about growth. And I think that's great for the industry. I think we have been in a stage, pre-pandemic and even through the pandemic a bit, where everyone's focus just grow, 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 right? I think contractors broadly are saying, that's okay to not grow 50%. 10% growth is okay. And when you have things like the infrastructure bill come out, that's kind of like pennies on the dollar in the global construction, or not to global, the U.S. Construction industry, but it does still provide some reassurance that things aren't going to slow down. A lot of the growth mentality is like contractors know, like, getting work is hard, and you never want to not have enough work. But I think there's confidence that projects will continue, and that if you build a responsible business, take care of the general contractor, do what matters to them, that those projects will come, and you don't have to be super aggressive in price, super aggressive in your negotiation, but you can responsibly build your business. Now, this is not necessarily flavor of the week, and we only talk to so many contractors, but that's like my broader sentiment right now in the industry.
I agree 100%. I think that we've got some blue skies in front of us as a country, as an industry of construction, but we have to do it smart. There's no sense to get outside your lane, so to speak. I think your product is fantastic. I mean, it's money. Everyone else has money, but why not partner up with someone who understands you? And what is more important, probably underneath the surface, is that is forward thinking with technology and is able to quickly integrate into the other systems that are, becoming more and more relevant in our industry.
Absolutely.
It really, if you were a long established subcontractor with a lot of money in the bank and you do things old school, the world's going to pass you by, because all of a sudden they're going to go with the integrated solution from someone who's up and coming and thinking forward, that has, the technology and the software and the data flow, that makes everyone's life easier. So that's my 2 cents. Chris, thank you very much. Congratulations on your company and on building Build. And you know what? We'll look forward to talking again sometime in the future, and you can tell us about your next great product that you're putting out.
Great. Thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate it. It's been good
No
chatting.
problem. Everybody have a great, safe weekend. Thanks.
All right.